Gaming NBS, episode 352. Being recorded, I don't even know what, July 26th, Monday, July 26th, 2021. Welcome to Gaming NBS, the tabletop RPG podcast. I'm Sean.
And I'm Brett. Welcome to the show, folks. Welcome back. Glad everybody's here. Sean, how the hell are you, man? Been a while.
I'm doing fantastic, Brett. How are you?
Not too bad. What the hell did you do last week? Any gaming since we chatted last?
I kicked
I
off.
think you had some stuff in the pipeline.
I kicked off Forbidden Lands.
Oh, the new one.
Chapter Dose.
The big deuce. Okay.
Yes. I started. So they said, "All right, we should probably get together and figure out why we're together." And I said, "Hey, don't worry about that. I got this." Oh,
Did you got this, or was it
kinda?
Okay.
I mean, I stuck them in an outpost. 3 of them.
Okay.
Stuck them in an outpost, kind of a sanctuary waypoint. Hey, it's a trading post. You come in there, it's grub. The rule is not to be obnoxious or they kick you out. And then off in the distance, somebody was going through the woods and being stalked by wolfkin. Wolfkin are these wolf people. And
Dangerous,
so,
obviously.
Dangerous. And a storm was rolling in at the same time, and they were trying to
double danger. Okay.
They knew they were being stalked. They were trying to outrun them, and they weren't going to make it. And they yelled out, and the guys at the outpost heard and ran to the rescue, although she was the one that dispatched the wolfkin. And so a little battle broke out. Nobody died. Nobody took damage. The wolfkin got fried a little bit.
Yeah.
And so, but they knew they were kind of outnumbered and weren't sure, and so they fled. And now one of them's got a nickname called Patches because it was blood magic and it burns from the inside. And unless you put it out, you continue to burn. So he'll burn patches of his fur, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's how the party met?
That's how they met. So now they're at the outpost, and now it's up to them. Like, hey, you guys want to adventure together? You got to find it's up to you to find the reason, I guess, and how that works. And then I'm going to give them some legends, some lore, some tips, rumors that they've probably heard at the outpost as they stayed there. And it's up to them what they want to pursue. And then that's it. That's Forbidden Lands. And then it kicks off, and let's go that way or whatever way.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So it was good all around?
I thought it was good. I thought it was a decent start. I mean, I didn't want to heavy fist ham it and sit there and kind of. And the funny thing is whatever. The convenient thing about it is the outpost is very much near 2 of the characters and where they're from. Like the forest that they're from is like literally at the back door. So, they were talking about, hey, where are you from? Well, I'm in this forest, and the other guy's like, hey, me too. Right? So
cool.
Stuff starts to take shape.
Very good.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So that's all I have to say about that. What about you, Brett?
Let's see here. My youngest daughter turned 13.
Oh.
So she had a bunch of friends over. Kind of cool. Everybody's vaccinated and stuff, so that was cool. Which put a cramp in our User Forgotten Realms first edition game that I'm running for the kids here, because busy and whatnot. My buddy Alpha called and said, "Hey, I got my halfling army for Warhammer all set up. You want to come over?" I said, "Sure." So I whipped together a little mishmash Dogs of War army, and he beat me, which is really embarrassing to have a stunty little halfling. He's got these great fig. It was a fun battle.
Brett, if you ever want anybody to beat in like a miniatures game or something like that, Warhamster, just call me, man. I'm terrible at those things.
I am slightly better than terrible, so I think I might beat you, or by luck. The way my dice were, I sometimes beat myself. That's kind of how it goes. But let's see here, and then we were going to play Mad Mage, the Undermountain game, but Alpha has some pretty serious family stuff going on, so he canceled that. Just wanted to get together and do something that didn't require a lot. Just kind of the Warhammer thing was very small, get his mind off everything else. So that was kind of nice. I just wanted to do something for him, help him out a little bit. This week, though, tomorrow I have my Greyhawk first edition game, and then I'm having the guys over on Saturday for an in-person Greyhawk. So it's a double Greyhawk week.
Ooh, it's a double header. Sure. They say that in sports ball. I understand that's like a back-to-back game or something like that.
Yeah, that's what they say. Yep. So very little rest time in between. Hopefully no one will blow a hammy or anything in the online game. We should be good for the second one. So I don't think this will drop in time, but when the guys show up, I have... back in the olden days of Dragon Magazine when it was in print, yes, kids, there were print magazines. I had the one which had the deck of many things in it, and I carefully cut them out and I laminated them, so I have the deck of many things. I have not pulled that out in forever, so this next Saturday there will be a deck of many things found, and I have a very particular location for it and everything. So if this won't drop in time, no one will hear it. So.
It's one that you made. What a nerd!
No, I didn't make it. I cut it out of Dragon Magazine.
Oh.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
You should make your own.
I've been tempted to do that because I am that kind of nerd. But yeah, I'm going to use this one because it's fun. I'm going to pull that off. So that'll be a good time. Other than that, not too much. Been kind of quiet, but that's just with schedules and Alpha's family stuff has kind of slowed us down a touch. But it is what it is. Let's see. All my GameWorld games were approved. Did yours get all approved?
They did. They got approved, but I'm not sure for what time. So I'm just assuming they for the primary time that I.
Yeah, you should. Your email should tell you when they tell you it's approved.
I didn't even read it, but.
Oh, there you go.
I read the subject line.
Yeah. Oh, approved. Good for me. I'm good. Moving on. Like any other good game master for a con. When the fuck am I running 2 hours from now? Well, I better get my game face on. But I've been watching Alex and the guys on Twitter and a couple other social medias. They're getting really close to releasing the list of games. At least trying to get the at least preliminary list of games that have been approved. It should be a pretty hefty, decent-sized list. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be a fun time.
Dude.
Yeah?
I don't know if Laramie is going to be running under our banner. I hope he is, because this guy posted on Discord, he ran DCC Rappahannock at a local con. He's in Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
He thought nobody's going to show up. He goes there, runs 36 to 40 hours over 4 days. People just showing up, dropping, right? Just kind of off grid, just playing it, everything, right? Hey, he got everything from like, hey, I thought I'd hate this guy, right? Kind of a funnel thing. Hey, I thought I'd hate this guy, but man, this guy's my boy, right? This character's made it. Yeah, I think I'm rooting for him. Yeah,
that's the point of the funnel. There we go. Very good.
At the end of the weekend or at one of the sessions, he goes to throw some stuff away, like in the garbage, comes back. Everybody gives him a standing ovation.
That's awesome.
Standing ovation. This guy, Laramie, one of our mods.
That is amazing.
He's going to be running at GameWorld. Yeah. Oh.
That's beautiful.
Fantastic.
That's one of those things that as a game master, we've talked about this before, but as a game master and even as a gamer in general, when someone at the table looks at you and goes, that's fucking awesome, or they say, wow, that was fun, that unsolicited feedback is just wonderful, right? And an organized, big applaud, that it feels really good.
Have you had a standing ovation, Brett?
When I wrapped up my Vampire game after 15 years, and I said, this is the last game. I'm never running this campaign world again. If we ever do it, it'll be a complete rebuild. And that was after 23 hours straight. We wrapped that one up.
That's worthy of standing ovation, I think.
Yeah.
It's tank it,
No, I didn't. No, I didn't tank it. It was. They were like, thank God he's fucking done. Wrap that shit up, dude. Boy, past his prime. No. But anyway, what Laramie did, I would say, is that story elevated above. Mine was people I gamed with for a long time. They were just happy and it was blah, blah, blah. These are folks that showed up at a con, just like, hey, let's do this thing off grid, and holy fuck, that's a pretty cool accomplishment. That's awesome. Congrats, man.
Laramie, he plays with some gusto, so
Yes, he does. I've run a game for Laramie. That man knows how to get in there and shake it up. Rainmaker, as they would say in Mr. Director Markland. Yep, good guy, very good guy. Awesome. Anything else, man? We good?
I think we're good.
Sweet. Let's move on.
Random encounter. Segment in the show where we field emails, voicemails, comments from social media.
You can go. I'll let you read it.
I will go. Stefan Dragonspawn. That guy's last name. I love it. I know. It's so awesome. Deputy Dragonspawn of the BSPD.
That's awesome.
He has one of those police.
He's got a gamer
shirts.
Yes.
I believe that you may have forgotten to mention. So this is on Retcon, by the way.
Yeah.
So I believe that you may have forgotten to mention that players oftentimes have the ability to retcon elements of the game or story. In some game systems, it's even part of the meta or mechanics, such as bennies in Savage Worlds or story points in Genesis and others. I've used this as a player, and some of my players have done this as well, such as, actually, I do have a 50-foot rope, or my PC knows one of the mooks facing us, and she's really on our side. This is also a form of retcon that is part of the system to encourage everyone around the table to contribute to the story and feel that they have a say in the narrative. To Mr. Kelly, no, I have not heard of Prime Time. I will have to look into it. So what he mentions is Primetime Adventures. So the RPG, which is you make up your own TV show and series, and everything is based on scenes, and then there's it has a card element to it. And the second edition came out a couple years ago. So anyways, continue to produce such excellent content and have fun the right way, or else I may show up at your door. You will respect my authority, is what he says.
Actually, Mr. Dragonspawn is coming through Wisconsin before Gamehole Con, and he may actually be showing up at my door to give me a talking to, from what I've been told.
I heard the governor was going to give him a key to the state.
I don't see why you wouldn't.
I mean,
now I gotta say, I feel I read this, and as I was getting ready for the show, I read this. I'm like, I can't believe neither Sean nor I mentioned Benny's story points in Genesis and so forth. Yeah, it's there, right? And even my beloved Gumshoe has the preparedness, right? Did you bring a flashlight? Click, roll the die. Yes, I did bring a flashlight. Did you have a gun? Yes, I do. Do you have extra bullets? Why, yes, I do. Do you have this? Yes, I do. Well, fuck. We completely missed bringing that up. And that is definitely true. I think we may have said in passing that there are systems with it. Those are very good examples, Stefan. So thank you. That is incredibly true, accurate. And that was bad of us to not think about that.
Well, I mean, I thought about it, but I thought,
let it sit.
See if somebody else notices.
That's a good cover up, Sean.
Stefan
that's a good
comes through.
And that, folks, is Sean retconning the discussion we had last time, the fact that we flat out forgot, but he's making it sound like we did know. I like it, Sean. I like it. Little retconception there. All right, I like it. Thank you, Stefan, though. Those are good points. Those are very good points, and I really appreciate you pulling that out there, man. Thank you. Let's see here. Jared comments in the forums about pulling mechanics from other RPGs. One other aspect of this I was thinking of was borrowing procedure from another games. For example, if every time you start a mission in a game, you make checks for X, Y, and Z, you can port that procedure over to another game if you can map those checks or skills or abilities to a different game. I like the idea for games that don't give you a set way to model something, even though it's assumed as part of the game rules. For example, in some games you might need to get a job from someone, but you don't have a set means of determining where and when a job shows up, and you don't feel like always controlling the whole process. You might pull in procedures from another mission-based game to let you know how trustworthy your employer is, how well the job pays, how dangerous the job is. I should be less lazy, but I'm pretty sure the Misdirected Mark folks did a discussion on the difference between mechanics and procedure, even though both are part of the quote-unquote rules of the game. So, Jared, I agree. I think there is it's funny, we can get over noodly and nuanced about procedures versus mechanics and so forth. I think in this case, to me anyway, the procedure is kind of that. It's similar to the checklist thing, Sean, that you explained to me about with the with Forbidden Lands. Did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? This cool procedure. And I think those types of things were probably easier to lift, I think, into another game system than actual mechanics where you say, make 2 strength checks at disadvantage in blah, 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 blah. And then you're like, well, yeah, but I'm running Genesis. Disadvantage doesn't really, what should I? Or it doesn't map to Savage Worlds. It doesn't map to whatever. But a procedure, like, hey, this is how you roll on these charts, you check these things, and then you determine what kind of jobs you get or what time of adventures are available or blah, 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 which is basically what Jared's example is. I think that makes a lot of sense. And if you've got a procedure that's very helpful like that, as you described, Sean, with the traveling piece, I think that alone is going to be gold for me when I'm looking at any type of hex crawler overland travel, even if I don't go full blown Forbidden Lands hex crawl approach. Just the oh fuck, I forgot to check for weather. Oh, you don't have that problem. And there's also something cool about that because the natural desire to be repetitive in some of that stuff, I think, is going to fall apart and be replaced by that. Wow, I didn't know that was going to happen. Yep. Turns out we did get 2 of those or whatever it was. Because let's say, for example, in the Shadowrun game, I do not know the newest Shadowrun rules at all. So forgive me if this is covered. But if you're like, well, this is how the Mr. Johnson's going to give you the job. And it might be like, well, you meet in the standard format or whatever it is that you're doing. If you feel as game master and players, like, okay, fine. Can we just kind of zip through we got the job, blah, blah, blah type of thing. I'm sick of role playing the same goddamn backstabby, double talky encounter. Not saying that that's just a Shadowrun thing that happens in a lot of different games where something gets repetitive. And if you take a procedure like this and you add some random elements to that procedure, as Jared's talking about, I think that's pretty cool. That's going to help spice that up and change it from we always do it the same way when we get our quest into, wow, the quest showed up in the mail. They showed up over, in some other fashion. So I don't know, Jared, that's a good one, man. That got me thinking a bit more about stealing different pieces. And because Sean always calls me out when I said, well, you could just pull these mechanics. And he's like, yeah, those mechanics might not click over. But I think thinking of certain pieces more as procedural would be a more elegant way to move them from point A to point B. Sean, you're nodding. You're agreeing with me?
I concur. Like the spirit of doing it and using it as a model, I would say, into a different game. Yeah. Without getting into, well, it uses D6s and I'm playing 5th edition, which is more D20. I could, you could just, yeah. I think that's pulling that over in the spirit of what it is doing and like say Mutant or a Year Zero engine is kind of what we're getting at, I guess.
I think that's even some of the beauty of the random encounter charts from the old days, or even now, when a lot of even some of the retro clones and newer games use them too, is that you have this thing that breaks up the monotony. You will check if you follow the rule for random encounters every X number of turns, rounds, hours, minutes, whatever it happens to be. And by doing that, there's a sense of dread or foreboding, perhaps, or whatever's going on. There's something's happening. And some of the better Call of Cthulhu scenarios that I've read or looked at, they'll have ideas to ramp up tension. Like, hey, after this, and this noise, you hear a noise. You did this and this, blood drips from the ceiling. This, and this, another body is found. But that's a more organized way. But I like this concept of stealing that procedure. That's cool, Jared. Thanks, man. That got my brains turning there. Good. I like it. All right. Over to you, sir.
All right. The Warden comments on the thing about RPG editions. Going back a few episodes. I've been personally struggling with a new edition of my first original RPG for years. 10 years ago, I squeaked out my first game about professional assassins called Killshot. I know that game. I bought that. I have that game.
I like the title.
Yeah, it's good.
Keep going.
It did what I wanted to do at the time, and then I came up with a faster, better way to clean up the system and tried launching a second edition the year after the game's initial release. It did not fund too soon. Every year I come back to a new idea for Killshot's second edition, a new system or any variety of mechanical alterations, maybe a PBTA version. Could it work with the current D20 system, and so on, and on and on. Nothing clicked, and my disdain for how the original version plays is locked. I love the idea of the game, but no longer appreciate how it's played. What's clicked has been a revised approach to what the game's about. In the first edition, it was just about completing jobs. Kill the target, check to see how many evidence points you collected, and determine if the cops are onto you. Rinse, lather, repeat. It didn't really provide a framework for campaign play. The current title for this edition is Killshot Syndicate. You are a low-ranking member of a crime syndicate tasked with forming a crew to eliminate targets. You live a life of crime, a life that means avoiding getting caught by the cops, sure. But can you survive the very syndicate that is considered your family? Can you rise through the ranks, or will your crew become the next target to protect their interests? Pulling this off requires a new system. Same one I'm using for my upcoming Supers game, Pandora Total Destruction. I am a backer.
Awesome.
Yeah. And now it feels like a worth new addition. Similar but different enough to feel like a new game. Those are the additions I can personally get behind, and it's why I've been more inclined to buy new editions of D&D with significant changes between editions, including the core mechanical loop, rather than subtle option changes and new rules in games like Earthdawn, which really has new editions come out when a new publisher buys the rights to it. For me, a new edition of an RPG is a new game, not a correction.
I think the Warden's last statement there, Mr. Crappers, a new edition is a new game, not a correction. I think there's some serious power in that, and that's where a lot of us, when we hear something like new edition, that pops out. Like, so what's new about it? Right? Well, they cleaned up some stuff. So it's a collection of errata that's been reorganized. Okay.
Or they implemented the errata. Right?
Yeah, or they implemented the errata, or they reprinted it. Yeah, kind of something like that. Yeah, it just doesn't grab you, you know. Where if you say, "Hey, this is," I think I mentioned it on the show, the newest edition of Cthulhu is the biggest change in the actual mechanics versus how it has been for a very, 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 very long time. But no, I get that. I totally get that. And I like the other piece that he's talking about here is when he's looking at, it's kind of like an inverted way to approach it. Like, hey, I want a new version of the rules. I don't like the way this game plays, man. I really wish there was a different rule system. I like the fact that he's thinking about that. And Todd's reading it through and saying, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? And then the revised approach that he's talking about is, you know, looking at it differently. I'm not what problem am I really solving here? And that's something, Sean, you and I hear that at work. This is a common executive question. What problem are we really solving here?
I work for a dev shop, so like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like that's
that's the question you gotta ask, right? Yeah,
the question you're asking, but you have to.
Yeah,
it becomes kind of this almost boring statement. I'm trying to solve the fucking problem. It's written on the board. Okay, good. It's written on the whiteboard that says this doesn't work or whatever the case is. But there are many times when we'll get involved in something. I think that approach, I'm going to jump where Warden's not going here, but I think Todd's also hitting on something that we as game masters or players sometimes will be looking. I'm looking for this thing. Why do you want that? Why do you want a different version of Call of Cthulhu? What problem are you really trying to solve? It doesn't mean that you're not allowed, right? Unless Mr. Dragonspawn and the gaming police find you. Not allowed to go buy whatever the hell you want and try it and whatever. But understanding what problem is you're trying to solve. When you look at a new character class or something you want to do differently. I remember Chad Knight, buddy of ours. One of the things when he was playing in a Pathfinder game with me, this is years ago, he said, hey, I said I know you said no splat books past expert, but I really like this thief idea. And I read it over. I'm like, why? Well, blah, 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 blah. So I really grilled him. And I'm like, why? You know, what about this? Well, I really like the extra backstab damage. I said, okay, the problem you're trying to solve is that you want to be more effective. And the way the backstab damage scales, it takes a little bit to get there. Here's what you do. First level human fighter in 3.0 or Pathfinder, bonus feats, stat bumps, blah, 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 more hit points, more damage output, so on. After first level, then, take a level of thief. Oh, so you have more hit points, more feats. You could pick feat, all these different. I basically laid out for him a feat progression and so on skills. He's like, oh, well, that is cooler. They're actually more powerful, too. If that's really what you want, this is a better way. And it doesn't force us to implement, because I didn't want to open that barn door. You know,
Brett helping players min-max.
Yeah.
Since 1991. 1991.
But anyway, it was like, again, that question of what problem are we trying to solve? And I think that even goes up to that concept of just the overall thing he's talking about is like, you know, moving, not just him, but I think what the other folks are talking about here. But Jared's talking about moving procedures in versus mechanics. What problem are you solving? Why are you doing that? You know, it gets a damn good question. It gets overused sometimes in corporate culture, but I think it can be helpful for us when we look at, oh, I really want to put in these chase rules. Why? Well, I don't like the chase rules that are there. Have you ever used them? Well, no, but I really don't like them. Really? Why don't you like them? You don't have to have this conversation out loud. You can just have that internal monologue if you want, you know. I think it's a damn good question, you know. And then if you're doing it, is it, in his case, when we talk about additions and stuff, is it a new game or just a correction? I think that's a really good point. That's a poignant point, Mr. Crapper. So thank you, sir. I fucking ramble. Hopefully I got all my rambling out on those. Man, I went way the hell off the rails.
Thanks, Todd. Let's get into the main topic. What are we talking about tonight, Brett?
Well, this one should be a favorite of yours. So one of the things that Sean has been talking to me about offline was like, hey, I got some really good feedback from the Forbidden Lands crew about things we could do, blah, 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 blah. Hey, I got some feedback from like the Jeff crew, or hey, I got feedback. And I would say, hey, I got some feedback too. I got this. And we talk about ways, means, we might change things around or whatever. And we're texting, chatting back and forth. I'm like, you know, do we ever give feedback to our players? I'm like legit in the same, like, I don't want to be rude, but let me tell you what you're doing that I don't like kind of thing. And I think there's plenty of opportunity for us to do that in the same way that good feedback for a game master is creative, something you can use. It's constructive. It's not destructive. I'm not coming at you saying, look, Brett, you're a dumb motherfucker because I wanted to be the special thief from Splatbook 5 and you made me do this other thing. And I think you're a dick, right? That's not helpful feedback, right? I think it's interesting because we'll often, as a group even, players will be like, yeah, I really wish we could do, or I think you should, or couldn't we just, you know, I've heard that type of talk from fellow gamers or myself, and even my home group, people will talk to me like, yeah, I'm thinking, man, if Nick would do this when he's running, or, hey, you know, I like this thing that Alpha does, but man, should we tell him, should we talk about this? You know, and I think that's great because it helps us get better as game masters. But I think I could get better. I do not feel I'm the world's best player, right? Like, I'm a fair game master. I do not think I'm a very good player, like, at all. Because I get frustrated, I get bored easily, right? If I'm playing along and I'm like, man, what the fuck? I am so bored right now. Yeah. I attack it with my sword type of thing. I'm not that bad anymore, but I used to get really bored really easy. And it took a long time for me to pull from people, how could I be a better player? Nobody wanted to tell me. Well, you need to engage with the story. Okay, how? Well, what should I do? What am I doing that's not engaged with the story? Well, yeah, well, you're kind of, I couldn't get anything that was useful. And I think it was also, for the folks I was talking to, they felt very awkward telling a player how to play better. Because I think, Sean, the dirty secret here is a lot of people like to bitch and moan about the game master, but they really don't want to fix anything on their side. I'm just going to say it.
I talked about this on Saturday a little bit. I said, hey, because Saturdays I'll usually go into something and then I'll talk about, hey, Monday.
That's Sean's show where he
I cut out the co-host.
Cuts me out and actually gets some shit done.
It's the solo band act.
It's the solo band act, yeah.
Sting, is part of the Police for those that didn't know.
Yeah, but the Police hated each other. Come on, we're not that bad.
Yeah.
We're not like the Eagles. Come on, we get along. True.
But when I bring it up, when I bring up the topic for what we're talking about Monday, I'm saying, hey, Monday night we're going to talk about this. And then I may elaborate. One of the things that I thought of was, one, do players solicit feedback? Most do not.
No.
And if you wanted to, what would that look like? And would you give them unsolicited feedback? And what would you hope to do? Because one of the things of caution, which I'm sure we could talk about ad nauseum, is, first of all, feedback is always interesting because people take it different ways. Some are very receptive. Mm-hmm. Some take it really, really personal.
We've talked about this a bit before, and I think this is a good segue here, or sidetrack, because if you ask for feedback, solicited feedback,
right?
You as the person giving the feedback, be constructive, helpful, nice about it.
Right.
Being a douche about it just proves you're a douche.
Right.
If you are providing unsolicited feedback, you need to really be nice about it.
Right.
If you don't want to piss that person off inadvertently. The guys, if Sean says, Brett, dude, you got to stop blah on the mic. Really? Yeah, it's fucking pissing me off. I've known Sean for a long time. If Sean says, stop fucking doing that, I'm like, oh, fuck, dude, I'm sorry. I'll try to stop that. If one of my players says, dude, you keep skipping me in combat because of this new initiative thing, can we go back to the old one? Because I'm sick of getting missed. If I hear that, I'm like, okay, I will take that immediate harsh criticism. I know these men and women. I'll take it and run. But people have have a thing, and I think it's becoming more common, because when I was a younger game master, the game master never asked, is there anything I could do better? What did you have fun with? Or what didn't you have fun with? No one asked that question that I'm aware of. Maybe the better game masters were, and I didn't know it, but I played with a lot of people over the decades, and that's a more recent phenomenon to me. I think it's a good phenomenon. I think it's awesome that we do this. It's one good way to get better. But the other thing that you need to remember is, if you're providing feedback, the person who gives it to doesn't have to do anything with it. I had so I'll give you a work example, Sean. Previous job where you and I both worked, I had a person who insisted on giving me a shit ton of feedback on every presentation that I would ever send out. The culture at the time was, send everyone of importance a copy of your presentation, your slide deck, your PowerPoint, and they would give you feedback. Crazy levels of bullshit feedback, in my opinion. I'm like, I did no. So I just started shit canning stuff. I'm like, this is dumb. No. And I would get in a meeting and I'm presenting, and in front of 30, 40 people, someone would like to say, I see you didn't bother to take my feedback into account. And I usually try to fumble my way into figuring something out as to politely how I missed it or whatever. And finally, one day I had enough, and I said, that's because it was not relevant to the presentation.
No, and they asked you why it wasn't in the presentation.
No, they said, I see you didn't bother to use it. Why was that?
Right. Yeah.
Which is a very attacking tone. I said, well, it wasn't really relevant. It had more to do with the overall blah, blah, blah. So I didn't see it was fit to do here. And I received so much feedback. I can't remember it all. And they looked like, and the room was like, this, what the fuck? He doesn't just do everything we tell him to. Like, fuck, no, I don't. This is dumb. So anyway, point is, in the real world, when you give someone feedback, they can choose to do stuff with it or choose to ignore it. Sean can give me feedback and say, hey, Brett, don't do that with the mic. I'm like, oh, too bad.
Yes, quit putting them.
Why are you choking yourself on the mic? What the fuck is wrong with you? You know, if I choose, I could be like, I choose not to do that. Sean could then choose not to be a co-host with this dumbass, right?
Oh,
you know,
God,
it's just silly shit. And
that is what's called poor mic control.
Poor mic control. Worse than usual for me.
Yes.
But anyway, I think the concept all around that's my little bizarre tangent here. But I think the solicited or unsolicited component of this, game masters, we have a tendency, the men and women and the folks I know who are game masters often reach out and say, "What did you think?" The guys I'm gaming with, my home group, say that. Sean, I know you asked for it. I asked for it after a gaming convention. What did you think? Right? Jen Brinkman, the last time I ran at GameholeCon, gave me some really nice constructive advice. You know, it was some good stuff. It was about story structure of the adventure itself. And it was nothing like you're terrible, but it was like, hey, I think this, and this could be really helpful. We all got it, but this would be really good. I'm like, you know what? That makes sense. And a few other people throw some ideas at me, and I went, nice. And I slid it off to the side.
Oh, you slid the rest of them to the side.
Yeah, the lesser people.
Okay, right. Not Jen.
No, not Jen.
Okay.
No, but her idea was really good. I'm like, I like that idea. That's something I can see value in. And the way the whole table went, yeah, ooh, I like that, right? And a couple other people would say, oh, and blah. And everyone, well, maybe not for me. I'm like, okay, I don't have 6 people consenting right now, sample size of small, but I'll put that to the side. Let's see if we do anything with that.
So what you're saying is, if a player solicits feedback and you give it to them and they don't heed it, you're like, okay.
No. So here's the interesting part, right? If this is a campaign, right, and you're giving someone feedback to the game master, and you say, look, I don't like the fact that my character is ignored. I really want something about my backstory here because otherwise I don't feel invested. And you're giving the game master information, or the table in general information of this is a part of the game that I really enjoy, and we can't ever seem to get to it, right? You told me this was going to be this very tactical combat-y game, and we haven't left the bar yet because the bard won't shut up, right? Or the wizard keeps talking to everybody. We were supposed to be a dungeon crawl. We got the quest 5 sessions ago. Can we please get to the fucking dungeon, right? I think there's, again, depending on the type of feedback and what it's about, there could be some obvious changes you probably need to make, which I think is legit.
Well,
so as a player, if I were a player and I were to get feedback like, hey, you're always late, dude. The fuck? We say 6 o'clock start, you show up at 8 o'clock, and we wait 2 hours for you. We're not doing that anymore. We're going to start the game without you unless you get your ass here on time, or however more politely you'd like to tell me. That's type of feedback, though. I need to then, as a player, come clean and say, look, I'm sorry, I can't make that because of a work schedule. I have my kids that day. Something else is going on, or I suck at time. I am sorry. And go ahead and start without me.
See, I don't
or whatever.
I don't see that as feedback.
You don't see that as feedback?
I don't see that as feedback. To me,
what is that? Just hardcore criticism?
To me, that's table stakes, man. That's like GM player doesn't matter. Like, that's social contract shit. Like, hey.
Well, table stakes are different to people. But
fair. But it's hey, show up show up on time, reply in a timely fashion for scheduling, bring your dice. Don't be a complete jackass, which is on the border of feedback. I
can buy that. I guess I was just using that as an example that would require action of some kind.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, it is a type of feedback, yes. But for the feedback that for this discussion, I think is, and you've gone to players providing the game master feedback and the game master deciding whether they want to incorporate that or not.
Correct.
Sure. I'm talking about players. Like,
absolutely.
You and I think there is a level with game. Okay. I think most game masters see or understand that they are part of the creative force behind a GM-based game. They are the one that comes up with a lot of the details. Like, I think that goes without speaking. They tend to put much more effort into what needs to be done at the table. Okay.
Correct.
Having said that, I think most, not all, but most game masters are open to feedback because we have such a huge sandbox. Brett and I could take the exact same encounter and run it completely different. We could explain things completely different.
Absolutely.
We could talk in different voices. We could in different perspectives. People will understand you're going into the same room, but from that on, it could be 2 different encounters and 2 different scenarios. Great. We take the feedback and kind of, so having said that, game masters, I think, are more susceptible to receiving feedback, constructive criticism, highs and lows, stars and wishes, whatever. Players, now, there's a couple reasons. Because one, players, you got to come to the table and got to play your character. So so what would the feedback be? Hey, I don't like the way you're playing your rogue.
Yeah, that can get weird, right? So if Sean, let's go back to the Star Wars game. Brett's being a douchebag and sitting on the ship.
Right.
And Sean could be like, Brett, should Sean have told Brett, dude, I need you, is there something about the adventure that's not interesting to you? Because it feels like you're really heavily metagaming while you're on the ship. It doesn't feel like you're even playing. Are you interested? Are you excited about this? That kind of question is a damn good question. And I think if I use that example, if you would have posed that to me, you've been well within your rights to do so. Okay, we're friends.
Yeah.
And I would take it as such, but that probably, I think, would have you would ask me polite questions like, "You having fun?" "Yeah, I'm having fun."
Right.
But that wasn't a probing feedback question.
Yes, no questions suck.
That's like that's like no good.
Right.
But I think if you would have, and I would have, now this isn't that you did anything wrong, but I'm just looking back, trying to learn from it. I'm like, I've talked about it a ton on the show. I think if you would have hit me with that would have made me take pause, like, huh? Because I'm having fun. Do I not seem like I'm having fun? No, Brett, you don't.
I don't.
It seems like blah blah blah. Does that make sense to you?
I don't think that was a huge issue. Just because I think it was like one situation. Like if it was repetitive, I'd be like, all right, dude, I gotta talk to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you not like me? Do you not like the table? What's the problem?
I think it was an isolated thing one night, and for all intents and purposes, Brett might have had a bad day, and he's just like, dude, I just want to sit on the ship. I don't want to screw around. I'm just not in the mood. Right.
Fair enough.
So it wasn't like, Brett's doing this every freaking session. This is a problem. I need to ask him what the hell is going on, and then get to the root of it and bring it to his attention and let him know and give him that feedback, which would be unsolicited and in a form, which I think is what you're going for, Brett. Like it's a form where you're like, hey, I need to know what's going on versus I don't like the way you're playing your tune.
Yeah, because I think what happens, and this is, maybe I'm even heading in this direction, but as game masters, at least for me anyway, and obviously listeners jump in here if we're way off, we've got different / better examples. But when we approach players, we say, are you having fun? Is everything okay? Right. We're approaching this, I want to fix something. There are times, I think I've talked about this before, I have kicked one person out of a game. Like he was part of my campaign for a number of years.
I thought that was behind us, Brett.
Are we done with it? There was a gentleman who I played with for a couple of years, and I'm like, hopefully he will show up to the game. I could talk to him as soon as he gets there and say, look, man, because I'm living in Madison, driving up to Wausau, we're game once a month, and we're going to say, look, here's the deal, right? He just blows off the game, doesn't show up. Finally comes in like near the end of the game, is just like this mopey. It was a stupid high school bullshitty type of move. And I'm like, you know what? And they didn't hang around later for me to talk to us. Hey, I want to talk to you. Then he boogied out of there. I'm like, this is dumb.
So this is what happened before you even got to talk to him.
Before I even got to talk to him, like I want to. So I just wrote it down in an email and said, look, man, here's the deal.
Ooh,
this is not working.
Text
and I'm
awesome.
Like, I broke up with him over text, right? Basically.
Broke up with him over text.
Over text. That's what I had to do. Because he wouldn't show up to the game. I couldn't talk to him. I'm like, it's irritating everybody. The way you are playing does not fit with us. You're not engaged at all. We have tried multiple. I've tried this. I've tried this. We've tried this. We've tried this. you are not, either you're not having fun. I don't know, but I can tell you that, you being at the table is causing other people not to have fun because nobody wants to fucking deal with you. I was way more polite than this, right? But this is decades later. But it's basically like, look, man, I got 12 people at the table and not a single one of them wants to talk to you. Like in character ever. They don't want to deal with you because you're a hassle. Sorry, but no. You got to go. That's the most extreme personal. I've had other people who have been kind of a pain where I could shut them down type of thing. But that was the one time when there was feedback like, no, you're done. That was very extreme. But I have a hard time, I have to admit, telling somebody, I think you're playing your character wrong, or you're doing it wrong in some way, or you know what would be more fun is if you did this for me. Right. If you engage with me as the game master more. Now, as a player, I find giving other players ideas or advice is easier. I don't know why, but keep going. Your turn. you got something brewing. You got it brewing. I see ya.
And you're right, Brett. Giving them feedback is different than the game master getting feedback because the game master has a lot of shit that they could address. Tons of it, right? Do less of this, do more of that, whatever.
I got a lot of levers. A lot of levers.
And pull yes, absolutely.
Do all sorts of stuff.
With a player, I mean, aside from doing all the social contract stuff, like showing up on time, having your dice, don't be a dick, blah, blah, blah. The other component, so one thing, right? So my buddy Jeff, infamous about not, like, it's always a mathematical equation every time the dice get picked up. It is, you're trying to land that one goddamn freaking probe on a moving asteroid.
All right, so it's +2 for the bonus. Jesus. Then I got advantage, but then I got disadvantage, and then I got another +3. Oh, did you got bless? Okay, so bless is going. That's a +1. Yeah, I played with people like that.
Every group has them. Every group has it, and they're and sometimes they grab it, and sometimes they don't. And I joke at Jeff's expense right now. I love the guy, I really do. And when I say this, he knows exactly what I'm talking about, and it's not a big deal. It's always a joke because I don't want to take it too seriously and blow a head gasket. But I've told but in those instances, I say to myself, dude, do yourself a favor, write it out like a flashcard or something. Like when you're going to smite somebody, pull up your little smite card, and it has the big number on it. Yep. Roll your dice, add that number all the time. Damage, roll, second number. Like, that's it. Whatever. Don't look at the spell. Don't look at the freaking number of attacks. Don't freaking, any of that shit. Just boom. That's it. Done. So that's feedback, like procedural stuff that I think some players could probably benefit from outside of the social contract. Is like
the cool part with procedural feedback, though, which I think you're getting at, and I'll give you another example. My buddy Nick, his sister's playing with us. And she was having a hard time understanding a couple different things. So he said, look, write this down. Yeah. I heard him tell her, write this down, because this is the same thing all the time. And she said, oh, my God, I got confused. I am really sorry. He's like, I'm not mad. I'm just giving you the solution.
Right. I
think for a procedural thing, giving someone an aid, something to help them get through it is totally good. I think that makes sense.
Yes. A streamlined character sheet. Hey, just do me a favor. I got your character on this sheet. Just let's see how you use this sheet. Look it over, right? I don't expect you to grok it in a half hour or whatever, but look this over and see if it's easier to use, like to reference things. Maybe because here's how I categorize them. Maybe it's easy to navigate. Let me know.
Right? Yeah, and sometimes I have had. So I'll go from player, then I'll jump back to something. So the other thing I found is when I'm playing, if I'm playing with another group of people, like I'm playing in Nick's game, his Star Wars game, and Zave and somebody else, I can't remember who it was. It might have been Bernie, Nick's sister, but they were all wrapped up in something. It matters, dude. It matters. so Zave and Bernie, I'm telling a story like my mom now. So Zave and Bernie are wrapped up in something, and they're arguing with me, and I just stopped and said, look, I'm telling you, as Brett, as my player, my character doesn't care. You can argue till the cows come home. You're not going to change my opinion. So that's just my character stance. I understand you, but where, he's coming from, no. And David, oh, okay. I thought you wanted us to convince you, like in character. No. I do not need in character convincing on this one. I got it. He's like, okay, cool. So that was immediate feedback, almost like a fourth wall breaking away from our last episode where I just said, stop. This is getting boring and frustrating. I don't care. Quit doing this to me. Right. So it was immediate feedback. I have had other people when we're playing with stuff where they're struggling or whatever it is. And I lean over, I give them advice like, hey, remember, you see this? You're lawful evil. Oh, yeah. Your alignment matters. Oh, shit. Yeah. That's why the game master. Yeah. That's why he's leaning on you, because it says fucking evil on the top of your character sheet. Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. If you want to change it, talk to the GM. I'm telling you, this is the problem. Oh, I see it. Sometimes people forget stuff, right? Sometimes it's as simple as,
well, maybe you just tell
looking
them,
over at the
here's
wizard.
some feedback. Quit forgetting shit.
Quit forgetting stuff, you dumbass. I
just want to talk to you. You seem to forget a lot of things.
Exactly. Could you write this down? Write this. You know what? I'm taking the liberty of recording this conversation.
Here, this is a player's handbook. Have this by your side. This should help.
I have very politely and passive aggressively taken a player's handbook, opened it to the spells, and put it in front of a player, saying, "Hey, because we're going to get in a big fight, are you probably going to need this?" Oh yeah, thanks. Person who notoriously forgets to look up their shit.
So passively,
which is a passive aggressive,
yeah,
passively non-aggressive.
Hey Dick, I know you're not going to look this shit up, so here's a hey, just here you go, just saying.
I'm putting a little work here to stop you. I have found that when I've done that in a game, the next game, the book comes out. And they go, "Hey, Brett, look, got it." Like, "Hey, cool, good for you. I was ready to help you again." Yeah, I know. I always forget stuff, but I got it now. It clicks, right?
They want
to get better.
They want Brett's.
They want my love and attention.
They want Brett's approval.
Everybody does, don't they? Really? No, that's a terrible idea. So as a player to player, the other thing I've had is like saying, my character, just so you know, Ange, my character hates your character because of the thing you did or whatever it is. I, Brett, don't care, right? So, and we've talked about this a little bit here, but when I say, look, my character hates you with a passion where I might come after you in some kind of a vengeance thing. I'm thinking about that as like is that okay with you, right? So that's one thing, asking permission there. And sometimes it's just like, before it gets there, saying, just so you're aware, the thing you're doing there is going to piss me off. Sometimes this is an X card area. Sometimes it's like, look, I thought we said no one was going to torture babies in this game. The fuck are you doing? Right?
Brett is so nice. Nice. Like, I don't know I don't know if I know a single player
who's been nice to other players.
Sits down and says, that sits down and says, "Hey, here's kind of the deal. I hate your character. And so I hope you're okay with that." Because
you've never done that? I've done that.
I have seen it in play. Like, I obviously hate your character, and I want to, string them up or whatever.
Well,
but
I have taught young children with learning disabilities martial arts before. So, like, sometimes you got to break it way down.
I don't see a problem with it. I'm just saying that it's always,
no matter how frustrated you are with the kid, like.
It's usually
not their fault. They don't understand. And I'm not saying,
yes,
that's just learning disability kids, but I'm just saying sometimes you got to look at who you're going to give the feedback to. It's much like the Game Master thing. If I'm going to give feedback to Sean, he goes, "I put 30 hours every weekend on this game. I am so excited." And you're playing and you go, "Wow, I didn't realize I don't see 30 hours worth of work. The fuck are you doing?
Prep for 30 hours?
For this? Wow. These are Chips Ahoy, just so you know. These aren't even homemade, just so you know."
That's the Forbidden Lands guys. Sean?
Really?
We got to talk.
The other thing I found is a Game Master. Let me go back to this, Sean. So before I do this, let me do this first. Do you, as a player, do you give feedback to other players? Like, "Hey, man, don't do that. You're pissing me off." Or, "Hey, it's my turn. I always go before you." Do you have anything like, sometimes it's just procedural shit, But if you ever had to sit down with somebody like, look, I don't know if you mean to, and this is probably too passive aggressive of me, even like, I'm telling you that my character hates your character, is sometimes Brett saying, you're pissing me off. And I'm going to tell you this is my character, because if I tell you, it's going to be very rude. Right? There's a lot of these people, my friends, are like, what the fuck are you doing? You know, it doesn't go over. No, very few people want to take the feedback of, get the fuck away from my table before I slap you.
Dude,
right?
that's different when you're playing with the Wausau Gamer Group Extravaganza or whatever.
Well, those guys I give shit to, I'll probably hit one of them. Just fucking, what's wrong with you? Get my cuff upside down.
Die chucking is kind of okay.
I've had dice thrown at me.
As long as it's not maximum velocity.
Done with love. Done with love.
Right.
Yes.
It's the occasional flip. Not
small dice.
No wind up. Nothing behind the ear. Like
no, nothing behind the ear. No.
Nothing behind the ear. No. So player, other than procedural, I can't remember the last time I gave anybody that feedback player to player, just because I'm telling you, giving players feedback is tough, because if you do, it borders on taking away something that they're playing Fightor or whatever, insert character or name.
I think
class.
Your statement is, the thing you said at the beginning of the Game Master, I have an entire toolbox. You've got like 4 tools.
Yeah.
The tools are so different.
Right.
Right. It's a different toolbox. It's like, this is a woodworking set and you have a calligraphy set. They're not the same.
No.
You know, it's a totally different kit.
You know, maybe, it goes to, okay, what makes a good player? Mm-hmm. And then you take some of that and go, hey, here are some of the things that you might be able to do better. Like, nobody's telling you you're not, a fighter should fight.
Yes.
If you decide that you're a fighter that's not a fighter, or maybe they're a conscientious objector, but they're playing a fighter, playing against type.
Absolutely happens. Right. And sometimes it's a hell of a good time.
Exactly. That's fine. But going back to them and saying, hey, you're a fighter. You're supposed to bash people in the face. Well, I'm a conscientious objector. Well, then why are you playing a fighter? That's stupid, right? Then that's no good.
That's not helpful. That's not constructive in any ways. Like, oh, well, I didn't make a fighter because I thought you were covering those bases. No, I don't want to do that. Okay. We need to change our approach as a team.
Right.
Right.
Sure. So having said that, some of the other things that would come into play is, hey, I got a lot of plot things going on. Some of them may not make sense, but for the sanctity of the group or the spirit of the game, sometimes you just got to kind of go with it. Like, instead of the, hey, that's what my character would do, I'm not going that direction. Sure, understand it. Having disagreements amongst the other player characters, certainly understandable. Hey, Flint Fireforge doesn't want to go across the lake. He's afraid of water. Great. They still get across the lake.
Yep.
Somehow, one way or another. There's dialogue. He gets across the lake. They knock him out, whatever. So it's some of those things like, hey, if you're not going with the flow, could you go with the flow? Maybe a little bit better. Throw me a bone every once in a while. It'll be much more fun experience, blah, 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 blah. But, hey, I'd appreciate if you talked in funny voices. Or sometimes it's not clear what you're trying to do. Could you better explain some of the things? Like, maybe I need to ask you some more questions on what you're doing. So I think a lot of it is more just taking what we would think is a great player, right? What would make a good player? Well, I show up every day on time and But I mean, in the game, like going with the flow, having social, differences between the player characters, if that's kind of a thing. Like, I'm always a grumpy dwarf and I never want to get along with anybody. Fine, but understand that you're all going to have to go in one direction eventually.
Yeah, we still need to move the game along.
Right.
Because at a certain point, if you choose to be the grumpy fuck that nobody wants to hang out with, they will leave you behind.
Right. Or shank you. I mean, I don't know.
Or it's prison rules. Sorry. And I don't know what happened. He fell down an empty elevator shaft and landed on some bullets. I don't know what happened to him.
The secret notes start flying around. Oh, you get a bullet, or you get an arrow in the head. What?
Yeah.
Where'd
Where'd
that come from?
from?
I don't know.
So,
It's like a note. A note. Okay, nod. Give me a roll.
Whack.
Note. Pass the other direction. What? Yeah,
exactly.
That shit just freaking blows up.
The other thing I've from a game master, I like those points, man. I really do. And I think the other piece is when we're talking about this, I think you're dead right. This is not table stakes of like show up on time. Don't be a general asshole. The other thing I've found that as a game master, what I end up doing is providing feedback in the moment. A lot of that has to do with it says lawful evil on your sheet, dude. No. Remember, we agreed that we're playing alignment strict per these rules. We all read them. Remember, we agreed that. And that's another piece is when we have that agreement and everyone's like, yes, these are the rules we're all bound by. Player to player, we've said this before too, players can implement the same authority there. Look, we agreed that there's no player versus player combat. Why are you attacking me? Like, we agreed that wasn't a thing. Or we agreed that, yes, you could be the grumpy dwarf that nobody likes. You would be difficult, but not impossible. You were making this impossible now. We had an agreement, right? And that's the other component is, as a game master, sometimes my feedback is like, look, the whole thing is going to grind to a halt if this is what you want to do. Like, just saying you are being an ass right now. Is that really what we want to do type of thing? Or you don't understand what it is that you're doing or the impact of what you're doing and so on. You've got something, Sean? Okay.
I do.
Yeah. Cool.
The only time that I can think of, and this is, I was a player, but it was a one shot, so I didn't know the group. But the only time that I would give a player feedback as a game master, and I'd probably pull them aside because, public, reprimanding can be a mixed bag.
It's uncouth. Yes.
But I would say this, and it happened to me in a Call of Cthulhu game. And I think I mentioned this before. It's when the pre-gens come out and people grab them and they pick the debutante and then they play the debutante as the heavy. No.
Yeah.
No.
You were literally doing it wrong.
You are in that case. Then I got to step back as a game. Now I wasn't game master at the time, but if I ran a game and somebody decided to play a bard or whatever, and that's a bad example. Call Cthulhu better because there's the roles can find their way to be different, right?
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
they get in this scenario and they're like, "Well, I'm Action Jack." Well, wait a minute. Hold on a second now. You rolled up investigator, like private dick, high investigation skills. Now you want to like
you're murder she wrote on paper. What do you mean you're Action Jackson? You were not. Yeah. No.
Right. So that's okay, maybe, but maybe you should play a different character. Like, let's change this line that says Action Jack and call it Investigator Jack. Yeah. Right. And I've had that happen because this happened to be unique because it was a one shot. So the one shot, usually you have different skill types there to cover different bases in a scenario. And if you're like, I'm picking this guy who's the rich guy who's supposed to fund everything, but then the rich guy turns into, I'm the chief investigator and your skills suck. Now somebody would say, oh, I don't agree with that, Sean. Here comes the next random encounter letter. I don't agree with that, Sean, because I should be able to do any of that. My skills suck, so I probably won't succeed very often. Fair. Absolutely. Understand. Get it. But when every single thing is like you're ultimately playing against type, you're not even playing against type. You're not trying to be the nice dwarf or the clumsy elf or something like that. You're genuinely picking like the wrong tune to play.
Yeah, there's a fine line sometimes between being difficult, bullheaded, stubborn, insisting on a thing and playing against type.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes the line's a little blurry and it's hard to read intent. And that's why it can be hard to give that feedback to people.
Right.
I honestly think one of the pieces that we as players are probably not doing often enough is asking people what we could do to get better. Because game masters, we do this. We're asking people, hey, what levers could I pull? What would make this session more enjoyable? And I think there's nothing wrong with, as a player, saying, you know, I think this character is kind of cool, but are you guys having fun interacting with, you know, excuse me, you know, Lady Sorsha? Is she fun?
She's a drip. She's so unsocial.
Yeah,
she never wants to go out.
You know, I don't know. I mean, those are pieces where it's not just, it's like, how do you like my character? Okay, cool, good feedback. Yeah. I thought you're supposed to be the financier of this whole thing, and I'm the guy with all the investigation skills, and you won't let me investigate.
You're the financier that doesn't do finance. Like we're leaning on you to get us to Africa to investigate this Nyarlathotep.
Yeah, and you insist on not spending. You won't spend any money.
You won't fund the fucking trip.
Or
what the hell is your purpose here?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe nicer.
In character.
Yeah.
Right.
But the other piece too is like, so am I doing anything that's pissing you guys off? Because sometimes you'll be, I know myself, sitting there playing, and you think you're being cunning or very clever, and you're like, yes, and my character, I see this as like he might be a turncoat for the group, and I'm trying to kind of maybe play all sides against the middle, and it seems like a cutthroat sort of game. And the rest of the group may not feel that at all, or may not want that yet, or whatever the case is. If someone, you know, asking someone, do you like what I'm doing? Is there anything I could do better? Right? Engaging with you as characters. Is there anything I could do better to, you know, understand whatever? I've got bad.
Read this trilogy on Drizzt. And so when you go to Icewind Dale, you'll know all the stuff we're going to go over.
Yeah. Read at least the Crystal Shard, for God's sakes. But seriously, though, there could be. I mean, I remember playing Amber Diceless, and some folks have played this and some have not. But if you do not know Roger Zelazny's Amber universe, it can be very daunting to understand the concepts and how it works. Now, in the back of, I think it is the second book, there is a synopsis of the entire Chronicles. And I've told people, I said, you could read that if you want. People were like, oh, yeah, I want to get involved. Oh, I just don't have time to read the novels. I'll tell you what, read the synopsis. Oh, yeah, cool, I'll do that. It becomes glaringly obvious. They haven't fucking read anything. Or if they did, they have nothing sunk in, right? They don't understand what they read, which is 90% of the time not the case. It's usually they didn't bother to do the homework they were assigned, right? Sometimes I think as a player, it's like asking that question, though, is there something I missed? Is there something I could be doing better? I feel like, you know, because we don't have any problems giving feedback to a game master saying, you know, you really should rely on Jeff more because Jeff knows the Forgotten Realms better than you do. We don't have any problem giving the game master that info. Is there any reason why we wouldn't tell a player, look, you know what, here's the Cliff Notes of this, or if you want to stay late at the game or come in early, I can give you a quick rundown of the trilogy. I can just blow by you all the salient points, or I could help you understand something better, right? And I think that's and if you're playing a new game for the first time, like Call of Cthulhu, you've never played a horror game before with heavy, like going to find clues and crazy investigation stuff, not like, did orcs come this way? And where's the blacksmith's son? You're trying to figure out these weird minutia. And if you feel lost, or if you're not sure that you're fitting in, ask the question, am I doing this right? You can ask it in the game, right? You can say, okay, just out of character, I feel like I'm like totally screwing something up. And somebody looks at you and goes, well, it does say airplane pilot. So you being here at the library is probably not the best place for you. If you went to the airport, you could get more bang for your character's buck. Got it. Thank you very much. And then go take, then that's actionable. That's something you can do, right? Does that make sense, Sean?
I think so.
It's not easy to ask for this stuff. And I think you're right. As a player, we feel like we have fewer levers. And I think what it is they're just different levers.
For sure. Right?
Am I engaging with the characters? Am I engaging with the story? Am I being unnecessarily difficult because that's what my character would do? I might not even feel I am. I feel I'm adding some fun tension. And the rest of the group is like, look, we know the end result is we argue for 15 minutes, knock you out, and put BA on the plane and fly to the next mission. Can we just say we did that instead of every fucking session we have to have a 15-minute in-character diatribe about how we tricked you to drink drugged milk? Come on. Why are we doing this?
Well, then I would have feedback for the game master for putting that in situation.
Constantly,
in front
all
of
the
every
time.
session, all the time. We're coming to a river that the dwarf hates to cross.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. I think, I don't know, man. It's interesting because we'll deal with problem players, and I think sometimes people that become problem players, or sometimes are seen as, there are some, honest to God, asshole problem players out there. We've all encountered them. If you haven't, I hate to say it, but you probably will. But I think some people who we see as problem players aren't necessarily doing it wrong. They're just doing it different. And unless we ask them, or they start asking around, or we don't give them any kind of feedback, like, hey, do this, do that. Here's an idea. You could try this. You could do this different thing. Because that's what Game Master feedback is. Well, they're not telling you usually that you suck. That actual constructive feedback to the Game Master is, you know what you could do is, instead of X, do it with a lemon twist, because the lemon twist really, that's perfect. That's the lemon twist, man. That's what we got to have. Great. Perfect. Move on. Because that's a lot of decent constructive stuff. It's actionable things that you can do to improve your and the rest of the table's experience.
There is something to be said about some players never, ever, ever having anybody tell them or give them feedback, so they don't know that they're kind of like, you know, I wouldn't say not doing it right necessarily, as much as I've been playing this way. Now, somebody could say, I've been playing this way for 10 years and nobody's ever told me this. Who are you to tell me this? Or you get the person that's like, I have been playing for 10 years, 1 year, insert time, and nobody's ever told me this. Thanks. I appreciate that, because I didn't really know that this was the thing, like a thing.
I think that reaction is, when we talk about what makes a good player, right there.
Yes, I agree.
The first reaction is, oh, you really are an asshole.
Right, yes.
Right, that's what the real asshole flag goes off in my head. I go, oh, I see, you're defensive too. I'm asking you, we were as polite as we could. We agonized over how to talk to you. We're having a discussion. And you're like, well, who the fuck do you think you are? You know where the door is, right? Because that's where you fucking came in, right? So I and I think as a good player, or someone who's striving to be a good player, when I get the feedback, what I'm striving to do now is like, I've not heard that before. That the second example you gave is like, okay, got it. And sometimes you can be like, look, I played this way for 20 years and no one's ever complained. Wait a minute, I played with the same group of assholes for 20 years. This is the first time in 20 years I'm playing with people I've never played with before. Or look at the table and say, wow.
20 years of assholes have been placating you.
Exactly. Which happens when we're all friends, right? We're like, oh my God, Billy's a jerk. But, well, we all love Billy. He stood up in my wedding. I just fucking named my kid after it. Jesus Christ, nothing I can do. But when you're at a convention or you're meeting gamers.
It's my Uncle Bob at the gaming table.
We're gaming at his house, man. What are we going to do?
Yeah, he farts. He's, QAnon. But I mean, come on. Other than that, we need a fifth.
Some of those are deal breakers. I'll let you pick which. Anyway, don't throw me off that one. But I think it's to be the introspection, which we've talked about a lot over the last few months, is like, look, when someone says that to you, say, okay, cool. And again, the beautiful thing about feedback is you don't have to react to it right there. You can say, okay, cool. I need to think about that. Thank you. You can react innocuously. You can say, wow, you know what? I'm not sure what I want to do with that yet. Hang on. Let me, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to think about that. Okay, cool. I will definitely
Table
going to table it. I'll take it into consideration. I will think about this. I'm not sure how I want to act on that. And those are noted. Yeah,
Noted.
mental note. Yeah, I'm going to put that down in my circular file. Crumble, throw. No, don't be a dick about it, right? But you do not have to react immediately when someone says, you know what, I think as a player, it would be better if you did this. You could say, not thought of that. Let me think about it. That is a legit response.
And then circle back.
And say,
to the Brett's original. Well, you don't have to do anything with the feedback.
You don't have to. You do not. And I think the other component is, as a smart, intelligent person, which our BSers are, is if you get feedback, you're like, this sounds like deal breaker feedback. This sounds like, if you keep doing this, Brett, we might have to ask you to leave. I am not having fun playing with you, Brett. When you do this as a player, I don't like you. You're taking away my fun. We've been around a while. And even if you're new to it, the social cues, you're picking things up, and you can hear this, you can feel it, right? How serious is this? And sometimes you can say things like, wow, I didn't know you felt that way. Do you feel really strongly about this? Is this something you really need? And some people
I've been in therapy the last year. I can't freaking take it anymore, Fred.
That acceptable. I acknowledge that you're mad.
I'm on medication for this shit.
Because of you prick. It is hard. Good God. It's not, and we're not psychologists. Somebody out there probably is. And I'm not asking you to digest all the social nuances and the double, triple entendres and what they could mean, but you do your best when you get the feedback as a player and say, wow, okay, I didn't know you felt that way. Okay. Let me think about how I can deal with this. Okay, cool. Got it. Understood. I noted, and I'm going to do something about it. Thank you. That something might be, I quit the game. I'm going to find a different group, because sometimes the answer is, I do not fit with this group. Do not put square peg in round hole. It doesn't fit here. Let's just move on. And sometimes it's like, wow, I wish one of those other jokers I gained for the last 20 years would have told me not to do that. Because, wow, I thought it was quirky and fun. It turns out I'm a dick. Wow, I didn't know that. I thought quirky and fun was making everybody mad at me. I guess that's not as quirky or fun as I thought it was.
I think the next session, the gaming Wausau gaming group up in Wausau is the Greyhawk game's gonna have a little twist at the beginning.
little twist.
All right, guys.
Anyway,
serious. I want to throw this out there. Okay, I mean, I was just thinking about this the other day, and
it's been 30 years, and I don't like any of you. I fucking had it. I can find better gamers other places. Never darken my door again.
I can't stand way you pick your nose before you roll your dice. You won't never shut up. You won't take any notes and show up late all the time.
And don't even get me started on you fuck. Yeah, that's not good. Anyway.
Yeah, so if you provide feedback to your players,
constructive and decent feedback, much better than Sean and I tried to here.
How is that all worked out?
Yeah, how's it working? How do you do that as a player? Do you seek out feedback? As a game master, do you provide feedback to players? As a player, do you give feedback to other players? And if so, what are you talking about when you're having those discussions? So it's interesting. Like I said, we were just chatting about it because Sean and I are doing a lot of game mastering. We're thinking about, hey, I want to make sure I'm doing okay. So you ask, how's this going? How's that going? And so on. And I just don't remember. Players just don't seem to talk about that. Maybe they do behind our backs. Maybe they do behind our backs.
Yeah. I don't know. What's going on?
Yeah, they're sneaking around behind us game masters, plotting and planning, and bastards, all of them. Anyway, let us know what you think. Let's move on to die roll before.
Die roll.
Oh, Lord.
2 to 4 miscellaneous points, gaming geekery we want to bring to you. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 this week. Mastermind Adventures. I found another pay-to-play site.
Wow.
Yeah. I thought, interesting. Why can't I copy this link? I don't know, but I'm going to.
MastermindAdventures.com. Find adventure with Game Masters for Hire.
Yes, and you can apply to become a game master.
Interesting.
Yep. So there's one I came across. Somebody posted a game they were running on Twitter, and they're like, "Hey, we do this thing." So, anyways,
check that out. Neat.
Next one, Sword Quest Micro Edition by Diogo on itch.io. If you haven't seen this, if you don't know Diogo, we've brought his work up online before. I actually have 3 of his games. Really cool designer, developer. And so this thing takes you could fit it on like a matchbook. Like, it's really small. So
he's asking $2.99 US for it.
Yeah.
It's a 2 megabyte PDF, people. I think most of that is the PDF encryption that goes with it or something.
It's like all one game. It's very, very interesting and unique.
Nice.
And then the Year Zero engine, as Brett and I tend to find some of Free League stuff interesting. They have a to create Free League workshop content using the Year Zero engine to create Free League workshop content. So, hey, you're on DM's Guild and you're chugging away on 5e and you're like, I could use a change of pace. And you explore Free League stuff, Year Zero engine, and you want to create content for them. There you go.
There you go. Yeah, if you're a fan of it, that's awesome. I like that idea. Very cool.
Yeah. The next one is the Fate Accessibility Tool Kit by Evil Hat Publishing. So this one, there's room for everybody at the game table. Inside Fate Accessibility Toolkit, you'll find an exploration of the challenges and experiences facing people with a variety of physical and mental disabilities in their own words, advice on compassionately and respectfully playing characters with disabilities, as well as strategies, discussion of specific disabilities, including blindness, deafness, hardness of hearing, mobility issues, etc. Lots of things listed. Options for representing disability in the Fate system, a review of RPG safety tools. Like, Fred over there is big on, making things accessible and open to all. And
we've got an ASL, American Sign Language reference for common RPG terms.
Yeah.
Large print character sheets. This is pretty cool. This is neat.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty neat. Check it out. Yeah. The last but not least is voice acting references. So Bonus Action on Twitter, I didn't find it through them specifically, but it proliferated, came up with this. Apparently they do some game aids and came up with they came up with like a print version, which is like a JPEG, but there's an also online random table that you can roll on.
Yeah, it's a D100. You can get anything from skittish, Jamaican accent, frightful, gruff and masculine, vocalizes from the front of the mouth, squeaky.
You have an NPC. You don't know kind of how to give them a particular voice. Roll on this table, pick something, and actually, which I find interesting, is you can just roll it and then assign it to that NPC. So when you reference it, because this is, I think, the tweet mentioned was, hey, you got that NPC that you didn't plan on having, and then the players come back and then you forget their voice. Like, you could actually use this, like, oh, they're scratchy and weak. That's, okay, I remember how they sound now.
My son
5
AJ,
months later.
My son AJ has got one he's shown me from Matt Mercer. He's like, basically, shit your players will remember, you won't. He goes, yeah, that interesting voice you used for the baker 16 towns ago, 5 sessions ago? You won't remember what they sound like, but your players fucking will. Like, we're back in Freetown, and we thought we'd go talk to Greta and Hansel, the 2 really cool bakers. Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, their voice changed. Oh, weird.
Well, that's weird. Or they've been taken over by something? No, they're not. I'm just an idiot.
Right.
I like that. That's cool.
Yeah,
and it's got some good ideas that are just keeps vowels as short as possible, smooth and warm. Speaks with lower jaw jutted out. Speaks with lips slightly pursed. Just different. And some of this, even if you don't do voices yourself, if you use these as descriptors for how they sound. I cannot do an Irish accent very well, you think, but I could say, well, they have a very thick Irish accent. Okay, click. Everyone in their head ratchets around what does Irish accent sound like to them, so they get that. I can't do one, but that's how they speak. Okay, cool.
I like number 52.
American accent.
American accent.
There's a lot of variations on that one too. Anyway,
Yes,
that's
there
pretty cool.
is.
That is
Yeah.
neat. I like that stuff.
Yeah, so that's you can find it and print it or use it online when you need to. So
Yeah,
that's
nice,
all I think we had for Die Roll and for this episode. What in the hell are we talking about next week, Brett?
I don't know, Sean. I've been trying to get you to give me some better ideas lately. No, I'm kidding.
I put one in the hopper about using imagery, but
Yes, you did. I'm thinking about pulling that one, and I've got a couple others I want to chat with you about. I don't want to. Sometimes I don't mind retreading stuff. We've got a fairly sizable back catalog. I don't mind retreading certain things, but I also want to make sure some of it has some time to sit. So anyway, I'll come.
Well,
We'll come up with something. A little behind on a few things. So.
Our episode feed only shows the latest 300. So the first 50, in order to get them, they got to go to the website and download them.
So that shit's free game then, huh? All right.
Well, see, there you go.
All right, cool. All right, man.
All right. Well, so, hey, thanks for everybody showing up live to see this recording on twitch.tv. We really appreciate it. Thanks for showing up. And we know that it's not something you have to do, but you decided to do it anyway. So
Absolutely. Very nice of you.
every Monday night, 8 p.m. Central Time, head over to gamingandbs.com/Twitch. You can sit in the chat room and see our stuff. Sometimes I edit this stuff. Like, nobody else sees it except for the people that are live. So, hey, YouTube, if you see it, give us a like or subscribe. And then, of course, catch us on your favorite podcatcher of choice by listening to our audio flagship show, our audio podcast. Otherwise, yeah, I'm done. I'm Sean.
And I'm Brett. Good night and good game and all.
This episode of Gaming and BS produced with help from the following BSers: Joe Swick, Old School DM, Tony Sugarloaf Baker, Eric Jeppesen, Andy Hall, Chris Steele, Jason Hobbs, Mark Tasaka, Mirko Froelich, Pure Mongrel, Brett Pazinski, Brandon Barnes, Eileen Barnes, Dan LaValle, CWL Mellencamp, Craig Huber, Roger Braslett, Stefan Dragonspawn, Jared Rasher, Ray Otis, Jim Fitzpatrick, Old Scouser Role-Playing, Christopher Lang, Curtis Takahashi, Larry Hout, Ron Bishop, Mark Richmond, Chad Gleeman, Sky, Craig, Howard Bishop, Josh Wallace, Corey Welch, Angus, Eric Salzwedel, George Sedgwick, Robert Nemeth, Brian Kurtz, Laramie Wall, Perry Besor, Eric Avia, Michael Dinos, Andy Olson, Jeff Seifert, John Kayward, Corey Gonzalez, Maurice, Niall Diamond, Aaron Ralia, Jeff Goad, Aaron Coleman, Brian Rumble, Rich Wishon, David F. Baylog, Harrigan, Melissa Bashinsky, Henry Newcomb, Cole Kago, Eric Tavola, Hoos Carl, Ghost GM, Mike Hess Jr., Rory Weston, Jim Ingram, Daniel Garrett, Eric Frankhouse Presents, Phil McClory, Adam Grotjohn, Jay Plata, Ed Nyes, The Duke in Purple, Isaiah Aries Christian, Larry Hollis, Quigley Malcolm, AWOL Trooper, Craig Shipman, Todd Sharp, Orcus Dorcas, Chris Shore, Michael O'Holland, Wayne Peacock, Mike Coleman, Miniature Master, Kevin Keneally, Zagrave, Bob Fletcher, Vornak, Farty McButterpants, and Andrew Lear. Hey, you know you could get Gaming and BS merchandise? Yeah. T-shirt, hats. Head over to gamingandbs.com/merch. It would be merch appreciated. And remember, be a positive force in the tabletop role-playing game hobby. Thanks, BSers.
This has been a Litterbox Studio production.